Welcome back, tubers. Well, today, of course, we have another repair project. We're working on a Cadet 18 horse mower that I just picked up yesterday, and having some problems with it not wanting to start. And I've pretty well decided it is the starter solenoid. But in the process, I thought I would go ahead, pull the starter apart, clean it up, put it back together, just to eliminate that. And because sometimes when you're having solenoid problems, it's hard on your starter. And a little preventive maintenance will save your starter. So anyway, what I have going here is I'm going to show, albeit probably in a stop motion type situation, because I'm the only one here, pretty much like always. Anyway, I'm going to show how to reassemble this, or at least how I do it, because it can be a pain in the butt. But the main issue is trying to hold all these brushes in place and get them back on the armature. And I do this a little differently than a lot of people probably, because what I do is I take some string. This is actually a cable off a pair of computer speakers, but something that's small, really flexible, but strong. And what I do is I place all of the brushes in their holders and retract them, and then I tie them in position with this piece of wire or whatever else I can find. Then what I do, once I have them out of the way, is I drop the armature down in, and then I carefully place the magnet and the housing back over the armature. So what I'm going to do is tie off these brushes, show you what that looks like, do a little bit of putting together. Like I said, I'm doing this one-handed, holding the phone, so I can't really do a start to finish video like I used to do, because my good camera, somebody dropped it and trashed it. I really need to get another one, but you know, that cost a few bucks, and when we're working on a budget, paycheck to paycheck, we don't always have money for those type of wants. So let me get to this and then I'll be right back. Okay, so first thing I do is I get two brushes opposite of each other, and as you can see, I have just looped the cord through their cables to hold them back in position. And that one there at the top of the screen, I will pull it a little tighter. Then what I will do is loop the tie wire or the string or whatever through the other two brushes and hold them in place. Okay, so as you can see, I have all the brushes tied back now. I will now install the armature into the brush holder. Okay, armature is in the holder. You may still have to do a little tweaking, just pull them back just slightly to get it down in there, but at least the brushes are in their track, and you can, if you're trying to hold all those brushes with one hand, you know, you can't do it. It's damn near impossible. There's other kinds of tools too you could make. They used to make a piece of metal that would bend down over here, go across there, and it would clip in front of the brush and hold it. This is something I do because you don't have to remember where you put that stuff, or if you're out at somebody else's house or you're somewhere else working and you have the tools to pull it off, you can take it apart right then and there, and you don't have all your special little clips and holders and all that junk with you. So right now what you do is you just carefully pull your string or whatever you used out of your brush connectors. Sorry about that, I got one that's hanging up. Bear with me, guys. It isn't always easy. Anyway, and then we go ahead and pull this out. Last one. Okay, so we have that in there. Now the trick, when you go to slide that armature into your housing with your magnets, it's going to try to suck it up in there, the magnets are. And so you have to keep force back against your brush holder on your armature, or it will pull that armature right out of the brush holder. And unfortunately, I don't have anybody here to hold the camera. I would show you exactly how I do it, but basically your brush holder goes on this end, the magnets are more toward the top. So you can get it part way in, and then the magnets take over and suck that dude up in there. So what you have to do is hold your hand over the end of this and not let that pull that armature rapidly out of the brush holder. And if you keep your force on the end of the armature on that shaft, you can get it all worked into place. And then it's just a simple matter of taking your other parts, putting them back on, putting your drive back together, and putting your bolts in and everything. So I'm going to get all this into the case, and then we'll be back. Okay, there we are. That's together. Your holder, your top holder goes back in. Make sure you line the holes up for the bolts with the hole down in there. And if yours has a bracket on the side, on any other starter, if yours has a bracket on the side, make sure you orient that bracket so that your battery cable, which a lot of times comes out the side there, this one doesn't, it comes out the end, but make sure your battery cable is oriented the right direction, because you can get it 180 out where it's pointing forward, and you may not have enough cable to get your wire back on. So I'm assembling as we go. And this one has a friction drive. This little drum here is it's not a spline, it's a thread, but it's on a thread. Well, then up inside your actual starter drive is a rubber bushing, and it's a friction drive. Don't oil these, because if you oil these, the oil gets in there, it doesn't grab anymore, and they don't work anymore. And if it's, bad enough, you can't clean it either, and you have to get a new starter drive. So that goes on there. For some reason, this starter had 2 retainers. Not sure why. Somebody has put it on there for a reason, but it was working that way, so I'm going to put it back that way. Maybe it came that way from the factory, I don't know. Maybe they were just using another retainer to maintain that spring, capture that spring. But you put this down on, and then your little wire retainer goes on, and it locks into that groove. Once you get it in the groove, you pop this retainer back up over it, and that keeps your retainer locked in the groove, which also doesn't let this come off. And then you put your bolts back in. That's real simple. Put your bolts back in, drop your nuts in there. This one, be careful, because that one's fixed and this one fell out. You don't want to lose them. But then when you're done, after you've cleaned the armature and everything, do not bolt this back on before you test run it. Number one, you want to make sure it works, but number two, you want to run this starter without a load on it, and you want to run it for about a minute. And what that does, after you've cleaned, which I use Scotch-Brite, sometimes I'll use fine sandpaper, but you've cleaned your armature, and you want to seat those brushes into this armature, and you can tell when it happens, because it'll start up and it's running kind of slow, and within a few seconds, maybe 10 seconds, you'll feel it pick up speed. And these dudes have a lot of torque. Make sure you're holding on to them good when they start. And but anyway, it will pick up speed. And every time after that, when you engage it, it will come up to that speed instantly. And when it does that, you know the brushes are seated good and everything. Then you can put it back on your engine. So guys, hope this saves you some frustration, some effort, some curse words that your kids don't need to learn, or the neighbor kids. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. See you later.